Hey Truth Seekers, welcome back, Zach here. In this video, I want to talk about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and the blame being placed on James Earl Ray. Long before I knew about numerology or gematria, what stood out to me about the death of Dr. King is the fact that a year to the day before his death, on April 4th, 1967, he gave a speech in New York called Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break Silence. Please make the time to listen to this speech. It is the best speech ever given, in my opinion. That speech is more true today than it was when he spoke it. And one of the main points he makes is that our silence against all the tyranny and things that are wrong in this world is our greatest undoing. And that is still as true today as it was then. In fact, it's more true. The other thing that's always stood out to me about Dr. King's death is this, the last speech he gave the night before he died. And in just a moment, I'll tell you why this is extra curious now knowing what I know.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So there it was, True Seeker. It sounded an awful lot like he knew his death was impending, and I think he did. Martin Luther King Jr. would die at the age of 39, a very standout number. The name Martin Luther King Jr. in Pythagorean gematria sums to 93, and that speech that we just watched was given on April 3rd, the night before his death. April 3rd is the 93rd day of the year. His name in gematria, in Pythagorean gematria, breaks down to a countdown. M becomes 4, L3, K2, J1, 4, 3, 2, 1. At the time he was the famous civil rights leader, the other outspoken critic of the government and civil rights leader was Malcolm X. Malcolm X in simple English gematria also sums to 93. He would be killed on a day with a life lesson number of 44, and his assassin would get 44 years in prison. Of course, Martin Luther King Jr. would die on April 4th, 4-4, a lot like 44. Remember, 44 is the kill number in this study. 44 is attached to so many assassinations in the United States and throughout the world, throughout history, even dating back to Julius Caesar, who died in 44 BC. When you write out 44, it sums to 144. When you write out April 4th, it too sums to 144. In recent days, I've done videos on the death of JFK and Bobby Kennedy. JFK would die on the first day of Sagittarius, also having this gematria of 144. He was the 44th term president. His brother would die 2 months after Dr. King, and he'd be pronounced dead at 1:44 a.m. on June 6th, which is extra suspicious because Robert Kennedy equals 66, and so does Sirhan, his assassin. In the case of MLK's assassin, James Earl Ray, he has these significant numbers coded into what happened to him. James Earl Ray would die April 23rd, 1998, nearly 30 years later, 30 years and 19 days to be exact after King. He would die on a date with numerology of 144. This number connected to all of these famous assassinations, also connected to April 4th, which has a gematria of 144, the day King died. In this study of numerology, gematria, and political assassinations, numbers that are often attached are 54 and 93. There is an occult religion called Thelema. Thelema worships the number 93 and the word love. The word love has a gematria of 54. Here on Earth, we're taught that the sun is 93 million miles away. The word sun has a gematria of 54. When you do this research, you see how often 54 and 93 are paired together. 54 is found in the death of James Earl Ray, who supposedly killed Martin Luther King Jr., having the name gematria of 93. Remember, King was shot in front of room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. The date James Earl Ray died on has a 36 connection. When you sum 1 through 36, it totals 666. There's a relationship between 144 and 666. Remember, when you sum the first 144 decimal points of pi, it totals 666. Here in the United States, two mythical figures that are parts of major holidays are Easter Bunny and Santa Claus. Easter Bunny has gematria of 144. Santa Claus has gematria of 666. This is not a coincidence. It's because these numbers share a strong relationship in mathematics and gematria as I'm teaching. Also, the date James Earl Ray died on is the 113th day of the year. Remember, the words mainstream and dishonest have gematria of 113. This is a number often coded into hoaxes. It's entirely possible that neither Martin Luther King Jr. or James Earl Ray died, as we are told. This I do not know, but it is a possibility. James Earl Ray in Pythagorean gematria equals 47. Memphis is where King was shot. Memphis also has the gematria of 47. James Earl Ray in simple English gematria is interesting. James equals 48, like the word hoax. Earl has this connection to 36. And Ray has gematria of 44, the kill number. Again, King died on April 4th. His initials, JER, have a gematria of 33. Another number often coded into these major deaths, these major hoaxes. The gematria of Memphis, Pythagorean 38 with the S exception 47. Remember, 38 is the number for death. Tennessee has Pythagorean gematria of 34, like the word murder. Some other interesting numbers. James Earl Ray would be arrested in London at Heathrow Airport on a date June 8th, 1968. This is exactly 9 weeks and 3 days after King was killed, that number 93 showing up again. And also notice 6'8" in the year 68. Remember, caskets go 6 feet deep and are 8 feet long. This date has a numerology of 101, like the gematria of the word assassin. Let us not forget that assassin equals 411 in Jewish gematria. JFK was shot from 411 Elm Street on the first day of Sagittarius. This date he was arrested also has connections to the number 38, like Memphis, like death. He would sign a plea deal on March 10th, 1969, a date with identical numerology to the date he was arrested, June 8th, 68. This is what I'm talking about when I say this gang, who's responsible for all this wrongdoing, does everything by the numbers. Martin Luther King Jr.'s date of birth is interesting. It's a date with 64 numerology. Remember, civil rights has gematria of 64. The Civil Rights Act happened in 64. MLK was the face of it. The 44th president, elected 44 years after the Civil Rights Act, Barack Hussein Obama, equals 64 in Pythagorean gematria. And it should also be noted that Barack Obama, in simple English gematria, sums to 68, the year King and Bobby Kennedy were killed. The date King died on, a date with 95 numerology, the reflection of 59. 59 is the kill number in Jewish gematria, and 59 is a number stamped on black Americans throughout history. It's also a date with 32 numerology, the America number. MLK is the only American-born citizen to ever have a holiday named after him. Quite the accomplishment. MLK was in Memphis to help out the sanitation workers who had been striking since February 11th, the 42nd day of the year. And remember, 42 is a number stamped on black Americans in a very negative way. We'll get to that. On April 3rd, the 93rd day of the year, he spoke at the Mason Temple, the speech we watched in the beginning. Look at the gematria of Mason Temple, Truth Seeker. And also, let us not overlook Mason, as in Freemason. It is the Freemasons and the Zionists who kill by the numbers and also fake deaths by the numbers. February 11th, the 42nd day of the year. February is the only month with gematria of 42. The word Freemason has gematria of 42, and all throughout history they have coded this number into racially and sexist words that divide and cause hate amongst people. The word nigger, the most hateful word for black Americans, has a gematria of 42. Think about how Jackie Robinson wore this number, and notice within it the double 5-9 coding. The word negro, not slaves, it's supposed to be slave, and blues have gematria of 59. Motown Records came out in 59, as did Miles Davis, who had name gematria of 59. History by the numbers, Truth Seeker. Close out with some other interesting facts. King would be shot at 6:01 p.m. This stands out because the number 61 is a number connected to God. The word church has simple English gematria of 61. King was a man of the church. He would die an hour and 4 minutes later at 7:05, a lot like the number 10-4. He would also die 64 minutes later, and again, his birthday is attached to the number 64. Civil rights has a gematria of 64. He is the civil rights leader, the face of the civil rights movement. His assassin would be arrested in London at Heathrow Airport. This airport has a gematria of 116, like 911 upside down. Heathrow also has gematria of 44, the kill number connected to the day he died on. Again, King was killed on a Thursday. Thursday is the only day of the week with 116 gematria, 911 upside down. The hospital that King was pronounced dead at, I can't help but notice that it has 1,212 rooms. 12 times 12 equals 144. It's also a hospital with 96 name gematria. Remember, Freemason equals 96, Satanism equals 96, knowledge equals 96. JFK was killed on a date with 96 numerology, and Lee Oswald has gematria of 96. As for the hotel he was shot at, Lorraine Motel, Lorraine has the gematria of 47 like Memphis, like James Earl Ray. Lorraine Motel equals 67, the number for satanic, and I can't help but think that he was shot at room 306, a lot like 36, and when you sum 1 to 36, it totals 666. Whatever happened to King, whether he was killed or he faked his death, the gang that is responsible are these Zionists, these false Jews, known as the Synagogue of Satan. People are going to continue to die by these numbers for as long as this gang is in power. It is Barack Hussein Obama, the 44th president, who is next. These videos are a desperate attempt to get the knowledge out to the world before it's too late. Until next time, Truth Seeker.